Is it happening?
It is.
Okay. Well, cheers.
Hi. Cheers. Welcome to Scattered Minds.
Welcome. We are taking off, starting from last week's.
Following up.
That's the one.
Continuing from last week's book. Last month's book, really. From A Buick 8, Stephen King. This is the book we started talking about last week.
You actually have to show this cover.
Yeah, this cover is amazing. I will show it. Check it out. Because Stephen King talks about this cover. Yeah. Totally off topic to start the whole thing, but hey. Yeah.
Welcome. So, yeah, we didn't even introduce ourselves. I'm Dominique.
I'm Rachel. I'm Mom.
I'm daughter.
Mom and Dom. So you should know.
Dom.
By now, you should know that we're mom and daughter, and we're bringing you cool books, cool reviews, cool local stuff, cool things that we think are cool.
Yep. Yeah, so I think recap from last week, we kind of talked about, so we stopped abruptly, but that was because we had a time limit.
And we're just learning this thing, so we're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, so I think we're going to kind of go through a quick whole book review, because last week was just the starting point. I think we should have got a little further, but we didn't. We just kind of talked about the intro, and the intro was where they found the car at a service station, and the troopers found the car. Not the troopers, but anyways, the troopers now have it in their possession, and they're poking and prodding at it, trying to figure out what it is, because it's not a car, a working car, more like a model car, is what we've come to the first assumption.
Yes. And so the story itself it's told by the present trooper, the chief, the trooper in charge, but the story didn't start in the present. It started in the past. So 1970s, early 1970s, we talked about that they found this car, and the story, the trooper starts telling the story of how the car was found and all the things that were happening with it throughout the years. And I was thinking about this last night, and it was 40 years. It was quite a few years that went by in this story.
Yeah.
But this car.
He's telling this story because how do we explain it? So
the
Sandy,
rookie, yes.
Sandy is the now
narrator, trooper.
Chief. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. He's the chief now in present time, and he is telling the story because the rookie that helped find the car, or was with when they found the car, came upon the car,
whose name was Kurt,
obsessed over the car. Well, he was in a tragic accident and died, and his son, who's 16, 17, Ned, comes to work with the troopers at the station because he misses his dad, and he just wants a way to find that closure, get close to what his dad was close to, and so he starts just helping out, learns kind of the ropes of the call station. I forget what they call it, but when you answer the phone, thank you, dispatch.
Yes.
He sits with dispatch, learns the calls, learns the codes, and helps clean up, does yard work for them, anything that he can, kind of housewife-ish, if you may. But he just wants to hang out. He wants to see what his dad's world was like, and they all take him in. They're like one big family. They expect him to be there. He's kind of like their new rookie. So he basically starts asking about his dad, and Sandy starts telling him, and
asks about the car that's in the shed.
Yeah, and that's where all the stories come.
And kind of where it starts, yes. So they go out back, and it's like this is where they go. It's their smoking place. It's where they sit and visit. It's where they take a break.
I don't think he started telling stories until the fireworks started, did he? Because he had to explain it.
No, he did start telling stories. He took him out to look at it and started explaining where it came from. That's kind of... It's been so long.
I know.
Reading this book, we've read it over a month.
This is why we wanted to do this in different segments, because we definitely
The plan is to break it up, yes.
We have not really talked about this book because it's something that we want to do here
with you.
And and we want to share our thoughts and opinions, and this book is going to be a little different because A, we're just starting out, and B, we've already been through the book, so we didn't really get that stopping point where we got to take it firsthand.
Be all excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's still exciting. It was a cool book, as Stephen King always writes.
Yes, as I was taking a nap today, I was thinking about this as I was falling asleep, and I thought this book is definitely at least an 8 out of 10 for Stephen King, because he got into it so quick, and the story was very involved, but you were able to get all these different pieces of it in a relatively small amount of time. Not that you were able to figure out what was going on.
No, because
but it kept you guessing.
Really quick,
yes, it did.
It was just kind of like the middle
is
the book, and it really stretched it out in enough that it was interesting the whole time, but different. And it took time to get through all of the different phases.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was great.
So let's see. We've got Sandy, who is the chief in charge. We've got Kurt, who is the rookie trooper who he became a trooper, passed away, and then his son Ned.
So his son Ned and Sandy start becoming close because of these stories. They sit and talk and talk and talk, and Sandy just basically tells them everything that's happened in chronological order.
And he involves the other troopers that were there during times that things happened. One of them is the dispatcher. Is her name Shirley?
I believe that's
Shirley.
correct, yeah.
And she's the one that taught him everything about dispatching, but she's there helping tell the story too, because she was there for a lot of it. Another one that was there, the old chief.
Yeah, the old chief was not with them at the trooper station because he ended up with dementia.
And he was in the hospital,
yes.
right, in
Yeah.
Anyway, it started off being the old chief, Sandy, and Kurt, who found the car, and Ennis, who is the other trooper that was there with Kurt, the rookie. They're the ones that came to the call. Ennis and Kurt. And Ennis...
I say Enos.
Ennis? Ennis?
I don't know.
E-N-N?
E-N-I-S.
Okay.
What do you think?
Enos. Yeah.
Ooh,
anyway, he disappears.
Yeah.
He disappears
I like that better.
mysteriously, and all we can figure, and they can figure, is it was the car.
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest stories. They're like, woo woo, what happened to him? He just disappeared. They were all in there. When Kurt starts really obsessing over the car, he notices that things start getting a little wishy-washy because the temperature changes. And everybody's like, the temperature's not changing. He's like, I bet you it is. I'm going to go get a thermostat. We're going to put it in there. We're going to hang it in the shed with the car. And that temperature is going to change from the outside compared to the inside of the shed. Well, the shed's not heated or cooled, so it shouldn't change temperature very
outside.
much. Yeah.
Right.
So that was one thing. And then another was he was hearing the car. He thought the car was like calling him, like not
Feeling
speaking
it,
words.
hearing it, yes.
Yeah, not speaking words, but
in his head.
Yeah, like pulling him. So he had this like pull from the car, and he's like, "Can't you hear it?" He was just, "Can't you hear it? It's talking to me, or it's saying something." And that was basically when he first found the car. That's why he started investigating things. And they did hang the thermostat in there, and it would change temperatures. And that's when they found that things were happening. Other things were happening.
As the temperature dropped, 55 or below, things
Danger
would
zone.
happen, yes. So, but Enos went out to investigate the car on his own and was never heard from again.
And they only had, I think he said there was 12 troopers around.
Right.
That were in looking at, that was when the car was brand new there. And they were in
They
looking
had
at the
just
car,
brought it
peeking
in.
through the windows of the shed. I mean, there's garage door, basically shed doors with windows that they're always peeping in at. And he said it must have been a downtime because, or they, whatever troopers, must have been a downtime because he disappeared when there was all these troopers around. Somebody should have seen it, something.
So he disappeared. They didn't know what happened to him, and no one had heard from him again. And this is ongoing through this story because he lived with his sister, who was crazy, and
Wild.
she wouldn't let it go that he disappeared, that he is gone, that something nefarious had to have happened to him.
And she blamed the troopers.
Yeah.
They did something. It was their fault. They're not telling their story, and they, basically raised money, hush money for her because they wanted her to shut up. But she was a nuisance to them no matter what. I mean, even when he was alive, she would call and complain and want him home. And make dinner, take out the trash, that kind of like a wife. They actually, I think they said that.
They
And I was
did,
like,
yeah. She was like his
and
wife.
husband, yeah.
Yes. So, but since he disappeared, they made a few rules. And one of them was that nobody goes to the car where the car is by themselves. Always has to have at least 2 people. And also, when the temperature changed, they didn't go in there. Something was happening, and they didn't go in there, and that's when the light shows started happening.
Yeah. So basically, light was coming from the car, but they couldn't explain where because the flashes were so bright that every time they tried to get up close, it would blind them. So they can't see what is happening except for this purple, blue, vivid light is coming out, shooting out of windows that it can. Yeah.
Yes, any place that there's an opening.
Anything, though. It's just coming from the car,
like emitting,
coming out of the car, and you can see it out of the windows. They would know that it would happen because the first time that it happened, all of their radio equipment would go down. The TV would go out. They couldn't walkie anyone. Nothing was working, so they couldn't even talk to the
communications
troopers.
were down.
Yeah, yeah, they couldn't get nothing to come out. So they kind of knew when this was coming on because this light show continuously happens through the story. But they would know it was coming because of the communications would go down everywhere.
So they started posting kind of a sentry. They built a little shed outside of the shed, like a little
storage shed.
Yes. Yeah. And they started posting the troopers on intervals so that they were keeping eye on it first, to make sure if things had gone on. So, well, prior to this, I want to talk about the screwdriver and the tire.
Yeah, this is when they put it into the shed, they started poking and prodding around. And I believe that this might have been before the disappearance.
Right before the disappearance.
Yeah. So it was one of the first things that they did when they took the car in. I'm pretty sure it was Kurt. He basically was like, we're going to figure this thing out. And he, screwdriver, she said that I think in the last video, but they put a screwdriver physically into the tire and the tire rejected it.
Worked itself out.
Not immediately, but over time just healed itself basically. So no flat tire, back to where it was.
But over a small amount of time, it's like it got
10,
punctured.
15 minutes, yeah.
Yes, and pushed it back out. Another thing happened that they recorded, that the car got a scrape.
They scraped it. They scratched it
down the side.
Yes.
And didn't they videotape that? They put a videotape on and left it running, and over the course of a few hours, the car repaired itself.
Yep, they said every 5 minutes, I think they were checking on it, and every 5 minutes it seemed to be getting smaller and smaller, and after about, I think, an hour, it was drastically
healed.
Yeah, drastically different or healed. It didn't take very long.
Right. So there was something crazy going on with this car, and that's kind of how the story started, but it evolved into how Kurt, Ned's father, became kind of a scientist and started doing things like a scientist would do to try to get to the bottom of this mystery of this car.
It was definitely he started putting bugs in the trunk of the car to see if any of the bugs would disappear.
In the front seat, He
got gerbils. He went to get gerbils and put gerbils in a cage, and just to see if they would disappear during the temperature changes, during the light shows, anything. If he knew that the temperature was changing in the shed, then he was going to conduct an experiment.
Yes,
some kind of experiment to see.
He took a flower pot out of someone's window and put it in there right before a light show happened. And then when he came back, the flowers were fine. He took them back out, but they died within a couple days. And so, where are we here? Let's talk about Mr. D.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, is the dog.
Yeah, the police dog.
So they didn't necessarily get a police dog. This dog just happened upon them, but grew on everybody. And it was an older dog.
And they kind of trained him to be a police dog. So.
Yeah, he just was a hound dog, and he just was easily trained to be pretty much part of the team, so they kept him around. This dog freaked out.
He knew something wasn't right about this car.
Yeah. And every time there was something happening with the car, he would just howl and go off. He wouldn't go close to the car. He would basically lose his senses.
Cower.
And peed all over himself at one point. When he was close to the car, he couldn't even be moved. They had to
lift him and take him away
out of the garage, physically take him out because he was immobile. Yeah.
That made me think about Kurt saying that he could hear it or kind of feel it, that, you know, dogs have the higher pitch they can hear. And I was thinking that throughout the whole story, that as soon as it started messing with the communications, that Mr. D could hear that happening.
Probably.
And he went crazy from it. The story about him, I don't know where you want to go from here.
Well, I would say basically in the order of the book, them telling the different stories it progressed. So Kurt's conducting experiments. He's trying to figure out what's going on in the car. Basically, what he has come up with is that this car does things for no rhyme, no reason. You never know when something's going to happen. At one point, one of the gerbils, there was 2 gerbils, one of them gets taken. But they went through this experiment 3 or 4 times before one of them was taken.
Right.
And they just had no answers. They had no answers. And then all of a sudden, something comes out of the car.
Yes. Out of the trunk.
Yes.
So they see that the trunk is open. And this has been happening. They at one point decide to cover it. And the cover just comes off.
Itself.
Yes. So they notice the trunk's open. And suddenly there's something in the garage, in the shed with the car.
Yes. Who finds that?
I thought it was Kurt. I thought it was...
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Called.
Yeah, he does get called. I think you're right. It was Sandy or the old chief.
I think it was Sandy because he doesn't know what to do, and I think maybe it was one of the older troopers. I don't know, but I know that somebody went in there and didn't know what to do.
Saw something, yes, and didn't know what to do. So
explained it very well.
Yes, and well, let's just talk about the explanation. What they thought it was.
Okay.
Yes.
They thought that it was some kind of bat.
Yes.
It looked bat-like, and the thing is about
wings.
So this is not going to be, I will say, the last. There's more things that come from this.
Yes.
Buick. But this is the first one. This one, as they try to explain it, it is bat-like, but it's big. It's big and has one eye
on top of its head, seemingly.
Yes, from what they can see, it's very thin-looking, like frail, kind of human-looking for body type is what I got, like a thin body type with massive wings, like a bat.
Well, I kept thinking of as Batty from...
Yeah, my name is Batty.
But it was freaky. I mean, nothing as cool as Batty.
Yeah, and he was explaining it, didn't know what it was, but he very much explained the smell. The smell was like cabbage,
swampy.
Yeah, like kind of like deterioration
and briny.
How you would think? Yeah, how you would think of like cabbage going bad.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I got from it too. And the thing is that it was, well, it seemed like it was smoking. Mm-hmm. It was leaking fluid that they just said maybe it was blood, but they didn't know it because it was black.
It was a black fluid.
Right? And it was kind of smoking. I got the idea that our air
atmosphere,
was
poisoning it.
Yeah, that's like kind of what I got too.
Like it was suffocating it.
Right.
Because this thing, when it came out of the trunk, no one was there when it came out. But they heard it. Maybe that's why they went to check. I don't know exactly what it was.
They heard something happen. That is what it is. And they had stopped posting sentries at this point because things weren't happening like they thought. So they had kind of backed off from it. So nobody was right there when it happened. And then all of a sudden
someone went to check on it.
Yes. Yeah. And they had said too that it was kind of moth-like. Sure. Like they saw that it had tried to fly because there was marks on the walls and the ceilings, like when a moth hits like something, it leaves the furry
residue. Yeah, yes. It was just like a residue, not like the dripping blood, it's kind of like a skin oil. How when you touch things, you leave a fingerprint or a skin oil. It's kind of like that. Like it was leaving oil marks or something.
So they call Kurt to come back to the station, and he takes it.
No, first you have to say they start poking at this thing.
Oh yeah, yes.
Because it is curled up on itself.
Like
so all it
it's scared.
Yes, all it can see, like the person that goes in there doesn't even know if it's alive because the thing's not moving, but it's like winged wrapped on itself, and all you can see is that eyelid.
Yes.
And he like pokes it, and the eye flips back, and you, and then wings
can you
open,
imagine?
and it kind of just like falls apart. So then, oh gosh, now they have to bag it. So they bag it, and Kurt is like, "Woo, gung ho, we're gonna dissect this thing."
Yes. So he literally starts taking some lessons in dissecting animals and studying up on this, so that he can dissect this thing.
And he starts dissecting everything, mice and insects, and it starts
owls,
working his
and
way
then
up
goes to bats.
And different kinds of bats, so that he knows the different anatomy of a bat. Because that's what this thing looks like mostly. Is that's all that they can explain it as, is some kind of bat.
And so they have a room downstairs that is is kind of their storage room, and they have a cabinet a filing cabinet, honestly, that they're storing this thing in. They kind of,
it's like a cooler.
He puts it in a cooler, and he puts it into this cabinet so that he can keep it good until he can dissect it. And there's a time when Sandy and, why can't I remember the old chief's name? Anyway.
I keep thinking it's Frank.
And Kurt.
Is it Frank?
I don't know why you would think that, because that's her husband's name.
I just, that name just, it happens upon me quite often.
Yeah, now I want to look it up, but they decide that they're going to go down and dissect it in this little room down there. And they do, and Sandy videotapes it, and they find...
It is disgusting.
Yes.
Basically everything that they touch starts to wither away, starts to just deteriorate into nothing, and the smell is just putrid.
That's what I remember, the smell.
And he starts looking to its rib cage. What is the thing? What's the worst? The eyeball? They finally cut into the eyeball and try to get back behind to see the brain.
The brain, yes.
And Sandy flips shit. Everybody screams. He loses his... He's the one telling the story, so of course he's telling it like, I lost my mind, I left the room, I couldn't handle it.
Puked all over myself.
Puked all over myself. It's the most disgusting thing, but everybody... I mean, it was just Kurt, the chief, and then Sandy, because Sandy's not the chief at this point, but... So they're the only three that go into this little room to dissect this thing.
Right, and they're like the Three Musketeers throughout this. That anytime something comes out of the trunk, the three of them are kind of the go-to guys.
So that's what the chief delegated anyways. When he started all this, he basically was like, I'm chief. Kurt's obviously the one that's never going to give up on this thing, so we're going to give it. And then we need a third wheel because we need somebody to have our back through this stuff. So Sandy just got roped into it.
Yes, and he was kind of an unwilling partner in it.
He would just go along because he doesn't have the pull like Kurt.
Right.
But he's to be trusted.
Yeah, and that's a thing about this, that again, they don't know what this car is. They don't know what is coming out of it. They don't know really anything about it, and there's no way to find out except for to do this. So they don't want anyone else to know about it. They don't want to have to explain anything because they can't explain anything.
So basically they're saying if we give it over to the government, they're going to hide it. They're not going to tell anyone. They're going to go through the same things that we're going through, and they're not going to have any answers if we don't have any answers.
And then we won't get any answers.
Yeah, but what are they going to do with it? They're going to make it, a weapon if it can be a weapon, or they're going to do something disastrous with it and not tell anyone. So they're like, we better just keep this a secret, and don't really. The town doesn't know. The town that they're above. Nobody really knows outside of the trooper station. And even when they have new people come in, it's not something that they share openly, willingly, unless there's something that they have to, like a light show happens and they have to kind of...
And they've given it a code D. Mm-hmm. So if anything happens, like the bat that came out of the trunk, and other things do happen... They call a code D.
On the radio.
Because...
From dispatch.
Nobody else knows what that is except the troopers, and that's in order to get the troopers back
and
to...
I think that even they were saying that this is kind of
Oh.
No, they were saying when other, so they are the state troopers, but like when local cops come on the station or anything, they make a joke of it. Like, oh, we got a code D, because they don't know what it is. They're just making, the troopers have their own lingo, their own language. And so it was kind of a running joke, and nobody really knows what it is. But haha, everybody at the station, we got a code D. And so everybody kind of made fun of that. I remember that was a little...
Yep, but everybody at the station knew what it was, and that was fine with them. They actually had a meeting after the first fireworks with all of the troopers at the station saying, this doesn't go anywhere beyond us. It stays right here. We're not sharing it with anybody, and everything from now on, the three of us is who you contact if something happens, and it's a code D. Mm-hmm. So that goes on throughout the book there, that if anything happens. And things happen quite frequently at first. The bat is just the first. The bat is just the first of many things that come out of the trunk. There's also a fish, and then I don't know what the last thing is supposed to be, but...
Terrifying is what it is.
Terrifying, yes. And I get the idea that the three things that we really are told about are not the only things.
Yeah.
That they find other things, that other things happen.
Beetles came out at some point that were not...
They put beetles in.
Okay.
And beetles came out that were different. They got dirt.
Okay.
Remember dirt?
Yeah.
And that's a good story, the funny story. They got dirt from the trunk and didn't know where the heck the dirt came from and ended up burying it
yes.
in the backyard behind the shed because...
They didn't know what to do with it.
They didn't know if it was poison, if it could hurt someone, if something else was coming out of it, so they just buried it. But yes, the main big thing that was scary...
I was trying to think if we were missing anything really big in between, because that kind of goes towards the end of the book. That's actually one part of the wrap-up.
This is a big part of the wrap-up, but it talks about... it is towards the end, but without giving you too much...
Well, we're going to go through the story.
The gist of it is that these things are happening on a regular basis, and they're keeping an eye on it. But this part is really... this is where Mr. D...
So is this the same time? Which thing happened the same time as the fire? The fire. This is okay. Yes. So there's a big incident where
a truck crashes
into a school bus.
Yes.
And the truck is overturned and has liquid coming out of it. But the truck it's got the diamond signs. That like the hazard.
The placards. Yes.
Yeah. So they're not sure what the liquid is, but it wrecked into a school bus. It hit the front of the school bus, so they can see the driver.
The driver is dead.
Slumped over, and they're assuming that the driver is dead, which turns out yes.
And it was summertime.
So there was not school in session. They were not far from a school, though. They were a block or two distance from a school.
And they were having a summer pottery class or something going on at the school. So there were kids at the school. Yes.
And so the station gets called, what's her name, Denise?
Shirley?
Shirley. I don't know why I said Denise. Anyway, Shirley. So Shirley, the dispatcher, she... obviously is like, holy shit, this is a big one. We don't know what this liquid is. And she tells the chief, look, there's an incident. This truck is overturned. We believe that the bus driver is dead. There's no kids in the school bus, as we can tell at this point, but the trooper's out there risking his life right now with all these fumes that he's inhaling. What do you want him to do? And the chief...
And gas had mixed with it that they didn't know, but it was catching on fire.
Yes.
And it was going towards the school.
Towards the school bus. Yeah, towards the school bus, which is close to the school.
Right.
So they're all within kind of like, events happening.
Succession.
And yes. So the chief has to make a split decision. He's going to send his trooper right into the mix of it. He wants this trooper to basically risk his life. If that's what he's doing, he's going in there and helping as many people as possible. So the trooper...
He goes to the school.
He goes to the school, fills up an empty school bus, takes kids away from there.
Gets the kids out of there, yeah.
Basically is helping everybody here and there. But a lot of the troopers that were at the station get called to this call to go help. All these troopers are getting called to this call immediately. And then the
dispatcher, Shirley, and one other trooper is still at the station.
Yeah.
Seemed like that's the way they kept it. There was always one person there with the dispatch.
Yeah. Yep.
And the dog was there.
Oh, that
Yes.
just gave me goosebumps.
Yes.
So the dog freaks out. So something's happening and nobody knows what's going on. They just think, oh, well, the dog can feel all of our tension because this is something big that's happening and we don't know who's gonna live through it, basically. So like
Right.
the dispatcher's all worked up. I believe who's the person that usually takes care of the dog?
I don't remember his name. I remember Arky. He was
Arky
the
the one?
southerner.
Okay, Arky. But one of them is basically the dog rallier.
Yeah, he was one of the troopers. Arky was more of the caregiver trooper.
Yeah, you're right. He was more of the mommy of the station.
Took care of the place.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the dog starts losing it, and Shirley can't figure out what's going on with the dog. She doesn't know what's
He's at
happening.
the back door barking and whining
insanely loud
and wants out, you can tell.
breaks
wants out.
through the door.
Right. So it's a screen door is what I get, and he just
Breaks through the screen.
backed up and ran straight through the screen. And so, of course, they're following him, and he runs to the shed.
And the shed door was
Well,
open?
yes, the shed door was open, and
No one
they
opened
never
it.
left it open. Yes.
No one opened it.
That was one of the things that, just weird things happened because of this car. And that was one of the things that it obviously opened the door. And so the dog went running straight in there.
Dog making noises that this dog has never made before, even with all this weird stuff that's happened with the car.
Yeah.
And losing its mind. And so Shirley goes outside.
Whining it she described it like he was screaming.
Yeah.
Like a
noise
dog
that
could
doesn't
scream.
come from a dog.
Yeah.
And this is where the last thing that comes out of the car is, and she is the one to witness it. So it is a gigantic. What the hell?
Well, I feel like
Was it squid-like?
yes, but I feel like maybe
Unlaid.
it was trying to make this is where I came from. The initial, when the car came to the gas station and the man came out of it, I wonder if he didn't come out of the trunk. And the attendant didn't see that. And he walked away from the trunk. I don't know, but something in my head went, is it trying to make another one of
Like
that? Yes.
Well, this is the
However,
thing, though,
it
is
seemed to
nothing
have-
has survived outside of
Right.
this vehicle.
Except this first man or whatever it was.
It's like a man, but it seems to be a lot tall, like 7-8 feet. It seems big, like way big. Like she was looking up at it, trying to figure this thing out. But it had like tentacles coming out of it.
And suckers. It kind of described like suckers, but they weren't
like
sure
on
if they
its
were
face?
eyes
It had a beak.
or suckers. It had a beak.
It had a beak.
Yes.
Kind of like, what is the Kraken? Kind of the Kraken-ish,
Oh.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess that's kind of
Good
where
vision. Okay. Yes. Good visual. I agree with that.
Yeah, but more human shaped because it's tall,
Beak and
maybe
eyes.
Eyes. It does, but it has the
Multiple
suckers.
eyes.
They
Yeah,
think
the
that
suckers are eyes in them. Right. They can't tell really. One, it's very dark. Two, it's very dark in the shed. So they don't have a lot of light on it. Shirley follows the dog out
She
and
loses her
screaming
mind.
for help.
She loses her mind. She's just screaming irately.
And so,
then maybe it is Arky that's with her.
yeah, I think it is Arky at this time because they kind of say he's not the regular dog handler, but when everybody else goes, the dog stays with him. So, yeah. So it's Shirley and Arky. The dog attacks this thing.
And the dog has never really attacked. He usually cowers. He doesn't really go after. Not that he was really kind of gotten after any of the stuff that came out of the trunk because he never really got that opportunity to. But whenever presented near the vehicle, Moore would shiver and
cower and piss himself. And yeah.
Never tried to actively get at the car, let alone anything.
This was definitely a dog that was on attack mode. That he felt like everything was threatened around him and he had to do something about it. Yeah. And so he did. He went at it. And
I guess one thing that we didn't really mention is
did
that
hurt
the
it.
stuff that came out of the trunk did deteriorate very quickly.
Immediately.
So like the moth bat thing died basically immediately. And while we said that it hit the wall, it didn't hit the wall and kill itself. It cowered in on itself and basically just died like that. The flowers that came out, they're flowers
with the dirt. Yeah, they wilted almost immediately.
Yeah. What was the other thing? The fish. The
kind of
fish.
thing.
You could see. Sandy was there and saw this thing just going away. Just he was trying to record it,
like it was dissolving.
Yeah, the camcorder that he was trying to get out because he's like, Kurt's gonna be pissed if I don't show him what's happening. He tried getting the camcorder out. The camcorder wasn't working. He maybe got like this much. Yeah. Yep. Everything kind of and always has that smell, that cabbagey,
rotten smell.
Yeah. So it's like everything is dying immediately, and that smell is the death. Rotten smell that's coming while this stuff comes out. So it's like wherever they're coming from, their air doesn't match ours, and our air is just killing them because it does not work with their lungs, their body, whatever. However they're able to breathe and survive, our atmosphere doesn't do that for them. It just kills them.
Yeah.
So this thing is the first thing that they have seen that's still moving that they're like, what the fuck? And
they have no explanation for what it is.
What the hell they explain it as, and then they basically, Arky comes in, sees Shirley screaming at this thing, and just instinctually grabs a shovel off of the wall and starts whacking at this thing, just trying to...
So this, at first, it doesn't seem to fight back at the dog. The dog wounds it, and once that happens, it kind of falls on Mr. D, and then Mr. D is screaming and yelping, and Shirley describes it that there's smoke coming off of him, the dog.
So she tries pulling him out of there.
Yeah. So that's when Arky starts hitting him, and they poke an eye, and he lets the dog go.
Okay.
Yes. So the dog she gets the dog out of there, but who is it? It's not Kurt.
Think Sandy.
Is it Kurt? Sandy.
I think Sandy is the one that comes in, and Sandy and Arky just start.
And there's three of them. It's what's her name again? Shirley. Also, they all get implements, tools, a rake, a shovel, a post hole digger.
Oh
yeah. And they just start wailing on this thing and
tearing it apart piece by piece, and it's just giving them their all. I mean, it's standing. It basically, Sandy described it as this thing was crying itself to death because it was screeching. It was kind of like you felt bad for the thing because they were tearing it apart. They were killing it. But this thing...
But they didn't know what it was. They didn't know... They did mention that at the end that they just murdered.
Yeah, so Shirley has a really hard time with this. So it's her...
Yeah.
She, after this is done and the creature's dead, she goes inside with the dog, and she is seeing the dog whimper, and she's upset. She's like, I can't believe... We just killed something. It might not have been a being from this earth or planet or whatever... But we killed some. This is murder.
It was alive.
It was murder.
And we killed it.
Flat out murder. And that it's something that she just had a really hard time to handle. And then she notices the dog is having a hard time, and the dog is squealing and whimpering and hurting. And she sees that smoke, I think, and the dog is still trying to get outside. Can't figure out what's going on. I think the dog pukes.
Pukes and is foaming at the mouth, like she does mention that, like rabies or something, and
she starts
feels
screaming.
him.
Oh yeah. She starts screaming for help because the dog's puking, and she touches him, and he's on fire.
On fire, hot.
He's just so hot to the touch. And the dog.
And she said that he had burn marks. His hair was like singed. On his ears, on his head, where this creature fell back on him.
I don't know if it bit him or if it.
We don't know.
Fluid on him or whatever.
Throughout, we're not sure if this fluid that comes out of these things is poisonous, is hurtful to, nobody wants to get any of it on them. When Kurt does the the autopsy kind of things, he's all suited up.
Time out 1 second. You know how there was two people that came in to help for killing the creature.
Mm-hmm.
They came in because they had arrested someone.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
So they pulled over a guy that was driving. Yes, Eddie is one of the guys, one of the troopers.
And George. I'm not sure if that's right.
No.
But you're right. While this tanker accident with the school bus is happening, another incident happens. Yes, where these two other troopers pull over
crazy driver on the road,
Yes.
and he's just all over, like swerving all over, and they see him punch his girlfriend who's in the passenger seat. He's just wailing on her while he's swerving
while
all
he's
over.
driving.
And so they're like, well, we're pulling this guy over. Of course, you know, he's over here domestic violence and on his girlfriend and, you know, probably drunk, high, whatever. So they pull him over, and it happens to be one of the troopers' bully from school. And of course, so now he's like,
Years back.
yeah,
And he's
obviously.
pretty much high and belligerent.
Yep, and a bully, and he starts calling this trooper whatever nickname he's made up for him.
Right, I forgot that. So fast forward that
Jackie boys.
they took him into custody. They were going to book him. They bring him back to the station to do this.
Yeah, he's in the back seat, and
And
he's
this
just
is
nagging
starting.
on them the whole time, and just nagging on them. And the troopers get out of the car because they can see something's happening. There's the loud noises, the screaming, the dogs wailing. They jump out of the car. Something is up, so they jump out of the car, and this guy is
Yes.
still stuck in the back seat and locked up. You know, he's
That's
still.
right. It's not Sandy. It's those two troopers with Shirley and Arky.
In Arky, it's Arky. I don't think Shirley was whacking on him. Shirley took the dog in, and the
I
three
think you're
guys
right.
were
They were whacking on
the thing.
Yes,
Yeah,
so
okay,
they killed it, but I don't know. She watched it. Well, they covered it up anyway after.
Yeah.
And so coming out from that, they find
That the guy that they were going to arrest
That
had
guy in
kicked
custody.
out the window, the back window. So this had probably taken 10, 15 minutes for all this whacking and killing this fucking strange thing. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, the trunk is open. So the thing came out of the trunk, and they all know if the trunk's open, stay the hell away from the trunk. There's something going on with the car. Stay the fuck away from the trunk. Well, the guy gets out of the back of the squad car, and he takes off. And they don't know where the fuck he is.
they have
He
no
could've-
idea that he gets out because they're so
Yeah.
busy with what they're doing.
They don't figure that out until they come out of the
Come back
shed
out of the
and
shed.
see that the window's kicked in. The window's kicked out, sorry, and the guy's gone.
Right.
And they're like, well, there's kind of wooded area behind us, so we're not going to go searching for him. We don't have the time for that shit. Obviously, other stuff's more important. We still got to worry about this bus, these kids. We don't know what's happening with the rest of the troopers. There's Shirley in there screaming at the top of her lungs to help because something's going on. So they go try to see what's going on with her, and the dog comes jetting out of the station.
Yes. And she comes following him saying he needs some water. He needs some help. Go get him water.
Burning up.
He's burning up. This is when he
Fire
is
from the inside, yeah.
puking bile,
Mm-hmm.
is what they say. And basically, the dog's dying. This thing did something to him.
Yeah, it either poisoned him.
And I think that he bit him. I think that
I
the
think
dog
so, too.
bit him the first time, and that's probably what happened. But
that's what I thought. Like, he bit him in the blood.
Yeah,
I think the
yeah.
blood is poison.
that's what I
So,
thought too. That's where I got that.
Yeah, that's basically what I thought too.
But they end up having to.
Put him down.
Yeah,
so
they end
one
up
of the
having to put him out of his
troopers
misery.
have to go and shoot him behind the squad car. And I think maybe that's when they notice that the window's kicked out because he goes behind the car and shoots the dog. I don't know if this is obviously that doesn't make any difference because it doesn't matter
chronologically,
timeline.
but it's right. It's all happening right there at the
Yeah.
same time. Right.
So then everybody starts coming back, and
to the station from the emergencies.
And I don't know what it is, but I know that Sandy has to go into the shed for some reason. Something's up.
No, it's Eddie. It's Eddie, one of the troopers that arrested. He says, I'm going to stay behind. I'm going to cover it up. I'm going to make sure everything is good. And he starts feeling like the car is calling to him to get into it. He has the idea that he's going to climb into the trunk and shut it and see
and just
if
feel
anything's
it.
in there and feel it. Yes.
It just seems like it would feel so good. And he knows in the back of his head, he even says to himself, I think that this is a death wish. Like, I don't think that this...
Why?
But it seems like...
the right thing to do.
Yeah, and it seems like this car is telling him to do it with his own voice. It's like...
in his head. He's talking to himself in his head about it.
And he's having an argument with himself. You don't want to do this because you're probably going to die if you do this. And he's like, no,
Yes,
you want
wanna
to
do this.
It
This is
probably
fine.
feels really good in there. Look at how spacious it is. I just want to feel how much space is in the back of the trunk. And so he's pretty much sucking himself into the trunk.
This whole time I'm like, don't get in the trunk. What are you doing? Oh my God, what are you doing?
So I think that the thing that pulls him out of that is them screaming.
Is the trooper screaming, oh shit.
for the car.
And Shirley screaming, yes. So exactly, that's what pulls him out. And he doesn't get into the trunk. And the cool thing about that part of the story is that he doesn't tell anyone this at that time.
No, this comes out in the story that he's starting to tell Ned, because everybody gets to tell their part of their big thing that happened to them from the Buick to Ned. Because this whole story is being told to Ned. So everybody
Ned wants an explanation for everything.
Yes. And he feels obligated to it. This is my right. My dad died. It's my right to know what he was obsessed over and what happened with this and what this thing is.
Yeah, and one of the things is that nobody was allowed to take notes. Nothing was supposed to be in writing about this. It could not, if there was no paper trail, nobody could say anything about it. However, it comes to light that Kurt made many, many notebooks.
Yeah, spiral notebooks full of notes.
When he died tragically at the beginning, pretty close to the beginning of this story, he left in his will that for his wife to burn all of his notebooks. So there was nothing for Ned to go back and read and get his father's side of the story.
Right. And so it so happens that Kurt was killed by the gas station attendant. By the service
20 some years later.
Yeah. So this story is this teenager is holding this big heavy grudge on this alcoholic kid that worked at this service station when the Buick was pulled in, because this kid that's no longer a kid,
as an adult,
was driving drunk,
still an alcoholic,
and hit his father on the road. On accident, of course.
Not just hit him, but like smashed him into the side of a truck on the highway.
There on the highway, yes. So this guy comes.
Yeah, so it was pretty horrific, and probably pretty traumatic for the family.
Yeah. So then I guess this kid is seeing a different part of this guy. This guy wasn't always this bad, he sees a different part, so he kind of has this little
where it came from.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting, that brought the beginning of the tale together with that story and then to the end of it too.
I don't even know I don't know if we should share the ending.
I don't know if we should share the ending either.
I don't know if we should share the ending.
I think we should suffice to say that
we have given all the spoilers.
I feel like, in my opinion, the car has some otherworldly way of controlling things outside of itself in the world that the troopers live in.
There is, I will say that there is, it kind of tells you what the car is. I don't know if we should, I meant the ending about the 57, about the Chevy.
Yeah, I don't.
Because that wraps back around too.
Comes back to the 57 Chevy. How interesting.
Chevy. Oh, the one that Kurt restored himself.
And fell to his son.
When
Kurt passed.
And his son was accepted into college.
Into the same college that his father was not accepted into. But.
What do you think?
Well, I think that...
I think there's more that we could tell, but I don't know if you want to hear it.
Should we give away the ending?
Maybe not the full ending, but I think we should tell what the car is for Sandy and what happens with him.
Yes.
So that's what I was getting at, is Sandy comes back to the car and by himself, but I don't remember how.
No. They all get done telling the story and say that's pretty much the end of it. And there's no real resolution.
Back in present.
Yes, there's no real resolution. And Ned's like,
yes, correct.
No.
Yeah, and he's like, that can't be the end.
And so there's an unanswered question that Ned never asks. But they all kind of leave. They all kind of go on with their life at the end of the day.
He pretty much corners Sandy and is like, did you... Never mind.
And never finishes it. Right. Mm-hmm. So they all leave, and they're all kind of like, I got to go do this. I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go get some dinner and go home.
As they're telling their story anyways. If they're done with they're just kind of trailing off.
Okay, yep. My part's done.
They're all sitting outside on the smoking bench as this story is being told. So this whole book is being told as
on the break bench
come out of the station and are sitting on their smoke bench outside. And Shirley makes sandwiches for everybody and tea and it's story time. So hours and hours, all day goes by and everybody ends up coming through to tell their story and leave in time. You know, we're done. So everybody starts trickling off. Sandy's like, that's pretty much the end of it.
It happens over time, though. It happens over days. Because it's not just 1 hour. I mean, they come back.
No, I thought that it was in...
Or not one day.
I thought it was in one day. I thought that it was in one day where they're telling the bulk of it, because she comes out a couple times. She does root beer and sandwiches and lemonade.
I remember that too, but I don't.
But it's dinner time.
Timeline
is done.
it's late dinner time too.
Yeah, it's way late. And Sandy's hungry. He ends up going to a restaurant to eat.
He goes to the diner in town, and something's not sitting right with him.
He's just thinking about the kid and how this was such a big story, and how he felt like the kid felt entitled to knowing the story, and he kind of thought the kid was a shit for it. And he's like, well, you know, just kind of going through all this stuff in his head where he's like, something's not sitting right, and I don't think it's the kid. I mean, obviously it's the car. It's always the car.
Right, but then suddenly he realizes, what he realizes is the question that the kid never asked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he stops him in the story to ask a question and never gets the question
ask
out.
It, right.
Yeah.
So he realizes, and suddenly you gotta go. He's gotta go.
He's out. He's done.
And I don't know
what beer. He had ordered a sandwich.
A burger and a beer. Yep.
And he didn't even want the burger. In fact, he was at the jukebox just going through song at the jukebox. And they're all these songs, and he's just kind of
lost in memories.
Yeah, just kind of spacing out. And the waitress, she's trying to get his attention, and she's like...
She comes back with a beer and says, are you okay? Because apparently he's all flushed.
He's out of it,
white.
And he's sweating. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he drinks the beer and he goes.
Slams the beer out.
But what did you think at this point? What did you think was happening? What did you think that he
came to realize?
Yes. What did you think? Where did your
The
mind
car was calling the kid. The car was calling the kid.
And so my thought was, the kid is going to go back to the car.
Well, yeah. That's
same thing. The kid is going. Like the kid is his dad suddenly.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it was, because this car has a way of getting in your head. So I think that one important thing about it was that was it Eddie that was going to get in the trunk?
Yeah.
Is that moment you realize that the car could talk to you, could basically manipulate your own thoughts and make you think that you're thinking the thought that you're that you're not thinking, could get into your head and make you think one way, because Eddie's brain literally had a conversation with itself, like an argument with itself.
Yes.
Where it was like, why would you think to do this? And it was like, this is a stupid thing to do.
Why
and he was
you?
like, yeah, but yes, you should. So it was like, the car's definitely doing something in people's minds.
And it's a conversation that Kurt and Sandy, the old chief, they have on occasion. Don't you hear it? Don't you feel that?
I feel
like it's pulling us.
Yeah.
So
that's
all of a sudden,
the pull was, he was like, it's got to be pulling the kid.
All of a sudden Sandy realizes that. He's like, crap, we all left.
Didn't the radio go out? Didn't everything lose communication while they were there? Or that was the light show. That was way earlier. Right. That's what started the big conversation.
Right.
Yeah. But the temperature never dropped. That was the thing, is that all day they were sitting there telling the story of the car, and the temperature was barely dropping.
And they checked it.
Yes. They checked it over and over.
Changing.
And nothing was happening. The trunk wasn't open. Nothing was coming out. But the temperature was still weird, and it had not really changed that much.
And so they were talking about that they are thinking that it's losing its power, that it's
kind of going into
waning. Hibernating, whatever, I don't know.
Like it's losing its so it seems like this car needs fuel, some sort of fuel, and its fuel is taking people or something with it. And since nobody's poking or prodding this thing, and Kurt's not around to be giving it experiments anymore, the car's kind of losing juice because it can't take anything.
So we forgot to say that this bad guy that got arrested, that they were going to book, that disappeared out of the trooper's car, was never heard from again.
Yeah, they didn't go looking for him.
No.
He was just gone.
They were like, fine.
They were like, we don't have the time. We're just going to say, like, that was, we fucked up.
However, he never showed back up at his girlfriend's house. He never appeared in the town again. He was gone.
Yeah.
And all they could guess is that he came in and he saw it happen. He went into the car. That the car
they never said
him.
it, though. They were just like, he's gone.
Must have been taken.
Yeah.
And it was an easy, and I think he was too. I feel like he was too, especially from the ending.
I was just gonna say the ending would give it. The ending would say.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you think that we should tell the ending? Because we're talking about the book. We've basically given everything away. But if you like all of this, then should we say the ending? I guess that's something that maybe we shouldn't this time. And then we'll kind of see how that goes.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. I mean, we can always come back and revisit it if you want us to tell you about the ending, but we think you should read the book.
Yeah, I definitely think
read the book from A Buick 8, Stephen King. How's that light? How's our light? We're struggling with light here.
Yeah, this is so
that's nice. Look.
Yeah, oh, that's beautiful.
See the teeth?
Ooh.
Rawr.
I love that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
We obviously have a dark background of books, and then we've got this little light thing up here, and then
I didn't think about that, but yeah. So we're working on this, but yeah.
So second video, it's not too bad.
It's been about an hour,
and
that's what we were trying to do.
We didn't do our thank you.
Yeah, one more time. We're going to talk about Purely Rooted Goods because that's who we talked about the first time, and we're going to keep it to our local, to the book that we're reading. So one other thing that I got from Purely Rooted Goods that I really like,
and my son really likes,
is elderberry. Well, it's syrup, but it is a package that you make and you cook it down, boil it, all the ingredients. It's got elderberries, it's got cloves, it's got cinnamon, some good flavors in it. You cook it down and then you strain those things out of it and you mix it with honey or agave nectar and you create a syrup. I take elderberry syrup on a daily basis for my immune system, and I have been paying about $20 to $25 a month for a natural organic elderberry syrup. I found this, I think it was about $17, and I have a whole mason jar of it. It lasts about 3 months, and it tastes great. I put a little too much agave nectar in it. It's a little sweet. Yeah, that's why Zayden likes it. But it's elderberry syrup, and it's great for your immunities. It's great for your immune system. For your immunities. It's great for your immune system, and like I said, I take it every day. And how cost effective, local, natural. There's no ingredients that are not natural, they're vegan, they're homemade, handmade products, and they pick their sources very carefully. So I'm going to show you this bath bomb again because it's the only thing I have sitting here, but it's from Purely Rooted Goods. Let's see if I can get that. How close can I get it? purelyrootedgoods.com. Can you see that? Is the light bright? There we go. That's kind of cool. Yeah. I can't harp on this one enough. It's the bomb. But yeah, that's another thing that I tried. And they have a lot of good for you stuff that is natural, homemade by a mother-daughter duo. So I suggest you try them. And again, if you use the code BRI15, you'll save 15% on your first order. So go to purelyrootedgoods.com.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll have a bunch of cool stuff from local places. It won't all be the same. I'm a big beer fan, so I'm sure I'll bring some local breweries in. And as you see, we're drinking tonight. I'm empty, so it's a good time to end this because we need another one. But yeah, we have our faves, and we want to share them with you in hopes to branch out also, because we're going to start locally and hopefully branch out to different things, but we're looking for recommendations too, because we're in the Midwest, so we're going to start in the Midwest, but there's so many cool things from all over around here, and we can find local businesses to support, no matter if they're in our locale or yours. You know, I just want to support small business is basically what it is, because we're tired of supporting big multi-billionaires,
corporations, and we all and I like local and I like natural, organic, so yeah, we're gonna find a lot of that stuff for you. So let us know if there's anybody you would like us to talk to, local favorites. Let us know if there's any books that you recommend that you think we should read and review. Yep. We're still working on this, so we're going to fine-tune these reviews and get them down to a science. But should we mention our next book?
Yeah, we're definitely going to do. So that if we're going to do this every time we finish a book and every time we finish a review, we're just going to show our next book that we're going to be working on, because if anybody wants to read along with us or just kind of see where we're at talking about, we want you to be able to do that. So
and we're going to try to split it in 2 to 3 depending on how it reads. But this is our next book.
Then Life of Bees.
Yes, I've heard rave reviews about this book, and we've been talking about reading it for a while. Sue Monk Kidd is the author, and it's supposed to be, well, it's a New York Times bestseller, so it's supposed to be a really good book. If you have it, pick it up, start reading it with us, and we will talk to you about at least the first third of it.
Yeah, I'm thinking we'll probably get through half. I mean, this seems like an easy read.
Seems like a short
I will
book.
say that this is not a book that I would usually pick off my shelf, because when I read, I basically go for like a memoir, like a biography, a memoir, or I just want straight up horror. I want something scary. I want something where I can't sleep or have wicked ass dreams, or maybe a fantasy. I like fantasy, but there's not a lot of. I'm real picky about them. I don't want something too far off unless it's vampires. I love vampires, but that's about kind of.
Yeah, we're vampire buffs. I pick a book. Well, I pick books based on people's recommendations, but also the way a book looks is a big draw for me, and I'm almost going to read any book that I think looks interesting. And then I read the cover to see if I want to really read it or not.
That's kind of how I pick out a book too.
But we're going to go through and make a list of books that we're going to work on reading.
Yeah,
like I said, this one's our next one.
We want to have a variety of books. So we'll probably read something along the lines of a memoir or a biography, which probably isn't her suit, but it's something that I would pick up. You'll be lucky if you find some Metallica in there, because I have a couple of those on my shelf.
I have some great memoirs too. Yeah.
But I also, I have some great, I probably won't read a lot of romance. I'm sure we'll hit on it though. I want a little bit of everything. So,
Definitely.
And I want everybody that is, following along with us to be able to relate to something or like something different. And we give a variety. So that's kind of where we're going.
Yeah. And we want to pick books that we're not real familiar with, just because we want to tell you if they suck too.
Yeah.
I mean, if we read a book and we're getting about halfway through it and we're like, no, this is not good. Yeah.
I mean, like
I suppose that we will decide if we're going to finish it.
I can't read it, but I've just watched. I love the movies, and it's
so
because
long.
of the movies, and I already know the characters. I want to skip through it. Remember me telling you about this skipping through? Did I touch on skipping through Stephen King? Fuck! Don't skip through Stephen King.
You skip Stephen King. You skip details that you need.
Yeah, I just can't get to it.
40, 50 pages down the road.
That one, that's my favorite.
Lissy's Story. That's a great book. We ought to reread that and visit it.
I've read it over. Yeah.
Okay,
anyways,
so we've been going over. Yes.
Secret Life of Bees.
Thank you for joining us.
Yep.
I'm Rachel.
Dominique. Have a great night.
Gathered minds.
Weekend, week. Yep. See you next week.
We'll talk to you next week. This is just getting posted. I'm not even going to bother with
peace out.
Cutting it. See ya. Peace out.